book is called The Mitten, adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. When we read this story, we're going to try to summarize. That means we're going to listen to the whole story and then retell it in our own words in just a little bit of words. So let's read The Mitten. The Mitten, a Ukrainian folktale, adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. At first, his grandmother Baba did not want to knit white mittens. "If you drop one in the snow," she warned, "you'll never find it." But Nicky wanted snow-white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow-white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long at all until one of his new mittens dropped into the snow and was left behind. I understand now. The white mittens are the same color as the snow. That's why Bubba thought he would lose them. But what is this? What is that? What's going on? A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size. So he decided to stay. So that must be a mole. There he is, crawling inside the mitten. What's that? A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten. And he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think that there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Oh, look, I see Nicky, and he is playing in the snow. He still does not know that he has lost a mitten. Oh my gosh, it's a little hedgehog. And look, there's the whole hedgehog. The mittens, they give me a clue about what's going to happen next. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten to warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered in prickles, they made room. Oh, look at the snow hare's big eyes as he looks at the hedgehog crawling in beside him. How do you think he feels? I think he might be a little nervous because nobody wants to get prickles in their face. Oh, I think I know what's going to happen next. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. And then he decided to move in also. The mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Why do you think that mattered? Looking at the owl's glinty talons. Why did that matter when they let him in? Well, I know that owls eat other animals. Maybe they were worried he would eat them. So there's Nicky, and he's playing in the snow again, and it looks like he's making snowballs. He still does not know that he has lost a mitten. And there's a tree. Ooh, and I see a face. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten, and then he began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left. But when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. Yeah, you could come in here. So if I was going to summarize the whole book, how would I do that? Well, it all started when Nicky wanted a new pair of gloves that were white, like the snow. His Bubba didn't want to make them, but she did. And sure enough, he lost that glove in the snow. And when he lost that glove, many animals decided to crawl into the mitten. I think that works. Do you see? A summary is where you just take the whole story and you crunch it down into just a little bit of words that tells you everything that's happened. I didn't have to retell the whole story the way you heard it. I just said it in my words. And now you understand what's happening. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in that mitten. A waft of warm steam rose into the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. No way! Look in that mitten! Do you think that bear's going to fit in that tiny mitten? I've got to find out what's going to happen next. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? Would you? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged to many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. Oh, phew. So at least it's not another great big animal coming along. Oh, look! Nicky has finally noticed that something is wrong. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the bear's great nose. Oh, there we go. So now at last Nicky realizes that there's a problem. And here he is, hunting for that white mitten. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! The force of that sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost Mitten, silhouetted against the blue sky. All the animals, and they've all fallen down. As he ran to catch his snow white mitten, he saw Bubba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound. Then, she saw that he still had his new mittens. You know, it's a good thing that bear sneezed. If he had not sneezed, the mitten would not have gone into the sky, and then it would have been hidden in the white snow. But because the white mitten flew into the blue sky, Nicky was able to find it. Of course, there was still the little problem of having one mitten stretched way too big. Can you imagine Nicky being there? I don't know how it happened, Bubba. So if I was to summarize this whole story, I might say, in the beginning, Nicky wanted new mittens that were white. Bubba did not want to make him white mittens because they blend in with the snow, and she was worried he would lose them. Nicky went outside with his new white mittens, and he did lose one. Many animals crawled inside the mitten to be warm, and this stretched the mitten out until it got really big. Then, the bear sneezed, the mitten flew into the air. Nicky found his mitten and took it home. But it was stretched out way too big for his little boy hand. Yes, I think that works. I just summarized the whole story. I didn't retell you every single word from the story, but I told you what happened in the story, the important points, in my own words, so that you could understand the book without maybe me ruining the story for you. This is a really good book, and I suggest that you read The Mitten by Jan Brett.